Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about the Wakefield Master's play, Herod the Great. Now, the Wakefield Master is a somewhat hypothetical figure. There are 5 plays from the Townley manuscript. That's Noah, the First Shepherd's Play, the Second Shepherd's Play, the Buffeting of Christ, and Herod the Great, which are attributed to, or conventionally attributed to, a single author, possibly a single editor. They're stylistically very similar. They have similar complexity in character development, etc., etc. And they all come from the Townley manuscript, which was formerly believed to be a cycle performed in the town of Wakefield in West Yorkshire. That's no longer believed to be the case, according to the editors of the Broadview Anthology of Medieval Drama. But the Townley manuscript sort of brings together these 32 plays, 5 of which, again, are attributed to the Wakefield Master. And Herod the Great is one of these plays. Really, really interesting. And actually, it sort of represents this kind of iconic, the development of this iconic type of character, which is the Herod character. So famous, so recognizable was this character as a stage villain that in Hamlet, when the title character is admonishing the actors about how to perform properly, he says something to the effect of, "Be careful that you do not out-Herod Herod." And that's because this was an incredibly well-known stage villain. And we're going to talk about why, because he's a fascinating character. So the first thing I do want to talk about is actually almost basically from the beginning. We have this weird conflation. It is an anachronistic conflation. It is an ahistorical conflation, but it makes sense to the medieval mind. So the first character that we see on stage is Nuntius, who's a messenger. And his first line is, "Most mighty Mahun menu with mirth." They loved alliteration in medieval drama. So here we've got the alliteration of the M's. But Mahun would be a Middle English term for Muhammad. And so first off, there's this confusion in medieval England, medieval Europe, probably as a whole, about how Islam actually worked. There was a mistaken belief that Muslims worshipped Muhammad. Low degrees of cultural literacy, so nobody really bothered to sort of find out how Islam actually works. So there's that sort of not properly theological element. They misunderstand Islamic theology. But then there's this ahistorical element, because Islam does not develop until the 7th century CE. Herod the Great was a 1st century BCE king of Judea. That's centuries apart. And yet, Herod, who was unquestionably a Jew, is sort of repeatedly referred to by these Muslim terms. Within this, but also, like, he's described as a Jew. So we've got that opening line. A little bit later, the Nuntius says, "Herod the hated king by grace of Mahun of Jewry, surmounting sternly with crown." So he's the king of the Jews because of Muhammad? Yeah, again, it is this sort of weird, what the fuck is going on here type thing. Like, it is just this absolute conflation of Islam and Judaism, this probably not purposefully, probably just out of pure ignorance, this sort of conflating of different historical periods, etc., etc. There's also this sort of insane element where Herod's reputation is sort of talked up in ways that would never, ever, ever have made sense for a 1st century BCE king of Judea. Like Nuntius says, "Great dukes down dingus for his great awe, and him lautis, Tuscany and Turkey, all India and Italy, Cecil, which would be Sicily, and Surrey, which would be Syria, dread him and Dautus, from Paradise to Padua to Mount Flasken, from Egypt to Mantua unto Kemp Town, from Saraceny to Susa to Greece it abound, both Normandy and Norway Lautus to his crown." So Herod, king of 1st century BCE Judea, under Roman rule, this was a relative backwater of the Roman Empire. Apparently Herod is the sort of overlord of basically all of the Middle East, as far east as India, the Mediterranean, and as far north as Scandinavia. No, that is not where Herod the Great was known. That would not even, many of those places would not even have been on the radar for a 1st century BCE king of Judea. There's no way. He almost certainly did not know about places like Tuscany. The Romans did. He would not have known about Norway. He would not have known about Normandy. Yeah, but these were places that 15th century English people might have heard of. They wouldn't have any sense of what, like, the difference between Egypt and Turkey was, but they would probably have heard of them. So we get this. Again, this is just this sort of insane ahistorical elements, but building up Herod as this amazing king. Then Herod himself comes on, and I'm going to read you a decent portion of his thing, because this is Herod's characteristic style in these plays. These sort of Corpus Christi or cycle plays, this one possibly a standalone play, but nonetheless. Herod is this character of rage and violence and sort of demanding absolute submission. And you're going to see this. I'm going to read 1, 2, 3. I'm going to read you about the first 4 stanzas out of his 7-stanza introduction. These are about 7-line stanzas, just for reference. So, Herod comes on. "But I shall tame their talking and let them go hang them. Stint broadles your din, yea, every chon. I rede that ye hearken to I be gone, for if I begin, I break ilk a bone, and pull from the skin the carcass anon. Yea, perdia, cease all this wonder, and make ye no blunder, for I reef you in sonder, be ye so hardy. Peace, both young and old, at my bidding I read, for I have all enwold in me stands leaf and dead. Who that is so bold I brain him through the head? Speak not, or I have told what I will in this stead. Ye wot not all that I will meef. Stir not, but ye have lief. For if ye do, I clef you small as flesh to pot. My mirths are turned to tane, my meekness into ire. For all for one I wane, within I fare as fire. May I see him with ane, I shall give him his hire. But I do as I main. I were a full lewd seer in wands. Had I that lad in hand, as I am king in land, I should by this steel brand breaken all his bones. My name springs far and near, the doughtiest men me call that ever ran with spear, a lord and king royal. What joy in me is to hear a lad to seize my stall. If I this crown may bear, that boy shall buy for all. I anger. I wot not what devil me ails. They ta'en me so with tales that by goddess dear nails I will peace no longer. So basically, long story short here, Herod comes out, and his first 2 stanzas are basically entirely devoted to everybody shut up or I'm going to break all of your bones. Shut up and listen to me or I'm going to cut you up so small that you can fit in a stew pot. This is Herod, right? This is Herod at his finest. This is the character. This is what he does. This is a character of rage, of excess, of anger, of this sort of these unruly passions, etc., etc. And then he turns to the actual sort of theme of this play, the problem that faces Herod in this play, which is that he's gotten word that a baby has been born, the baby Jesus, but he doesn't know that, who will be king and who will take, basically dethrone Herod, essentially. And Herod does not want this. This is he is against being dethroned. And so basically what he says is, if I had that baby, I would break all of its bones. It would be dead. There's a little bit of, like, if you know the movie The Untouchables, the Kevin Costner film where Robert De Niro plays Al Capone, that scene where he's like, I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want to go to his grave at night. I want to piss on his ashes, whatever it is. I think that's the line. That sort of, I want him dead. I want his family dead. That sort of rage. That's Herod. Perfect. De Niro in that film, in that scene, is actually a great way of thinking about Herod. But the reason I read through the part that I did was this reference I gave you at the end, that by goddess dear nails, by God's dear nails, by the nails that crucified Jesus. This is one of the things I love about medieval cycle plays. And even if Herod the Great was not part of a cycle, it's in the same vein. Just, they're like, they have these pre-Christian characters who are like, by Jesus, by this saint, whatever it was. And these were oaths that medieval people would have been very familiar with, but Herod would never have sworn by the nails that crucified Jesus. It doesn't make any sense. It is this bizarre thing that they did, and I love it. I love that about them. But, again, Herod has this problem, which is that there's this baby that has been born who's going to be a king, and Herod does not want that. So, actually one of his advisors comes up with this plan where he's basically like, well, we don't know what baby it is, so maybe let's just kill all of the male children under 2 in Bethlehem? And Herod's like, fucking brilliant. I love it. That's what we're doing. Get my knights. He had knights, apparently. Because again, it's a medieval thing. 1st century BCE, king of Judea would not have had knights as such. He would have had warriors, obviously, of some kind, whatever the sort of military caste was, but not knights in the sense of the medieval period. But Herod's like, I love it. I love everything about it. Let's get my knights. I'm going to have them go kill all these babies. And the knights are like, yeah, that sounds fine. And Herod's like, do a good job. I'll reward you with gold and castles and women and whatnot. So, it's all very red-blooded and marvelous. And horrific. It's a horrific thing that they're all just like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. But then the thing that gets really, really startling, I think, if I'm envisioning this being performed, right, for a medieval audience, but even for today's audiences, we get this point. There's 3 soldiers, and this woman comes up to them, or she's walking along with her baby, and the first soldier is like, Dame, think it not ill, thy knave if I kill. That's, if I don't get upset if I kill your baby. Oh, it's reasonable request. The first woman says, what thief 'gainst my will? Lord keep ye in quart. She's basically cursing him here. She's ironically saying, God give you health. The first soldier says, "Abide, now abide, no farther thou goes." Oh, and the soldiers grab the woman at that point, and she's struggling against them. The woman says, "I shall reef thee thy pride, kill we," the woman says, "Peace, thief, shall I chide and make here a noise? The first soldier says, "I shall reef thee thy pride, kill we these boys." The first woman says, "Tide may be tide, keep well thy nose, false thief." She hits him. "Have on loft on thy hoed," which is basically bash you in the head. The first soldier says, "What whore art thou woed?" or insane. And then, according to the stage directions, he kills the child. Like, they detain 3 women and kill their children on stage. It's fucking insane, right? And I'm sure, realistically, that this was like a bundle of rags or a doll or something, and they just, like, stuck a knife in it or whatever. But, wow. Wowie, wow, wow. I mean, staging the actual infanticide. I get that this is the premise of this incident is the slaughter of the innocents, right? In the Bible, the story of the slaughter of the innocents. Doing that on stage, that's got to be massively startling to an audience. Because you think about this, right? Like in Greek tragedy, for instance, violence is almost never done on stage. It's almost always done off stage and reported on. Here we're seeing children being murdered on stage. This is in-your-face drama, right? Like, in your face, there was this 90s British movement, 1990s British drama movement, where basically it was like, we're putting violence on stage, we're putting sex on stage, we're putting drug use on stage. And it was this shocking thing. People were like, what? No, you can't stage actual murders and dismemberments and whatnot. The fucking Wakefield Master in the 15th century was like, yeah, stab that baby on stage in front of the audience. The Wakefield Master was doing in-your-face drama 5 centuries before in-your-face was a thing. It's insane. And I love it.